Do you have a passion to serve, and whom are you serving? Stay tuned to find out.
Welcome.
Okay, here's the question. How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph?
Come on.
Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman.
And push it up.
What is up? What is up? What is up, my dark horse friends and family? Welcome back to your weekly dose of passionate service learning. I am your dark horse host, Tracy Brinkman, and you, well, that, my friend, is infinitely more important. You are a driven entrepreneur or a business owner, or perhaps you're one in the making. Either way, you're here because you're ready to start, restart, kickstart, or just start leveling up with some great marketing, personal, or business tips and results in order to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. And now, I know I say this every week, and every week I fully believe it. This is a big episode. Today, Timothy Ramthun shares a wealth of knowledge on having a passion to serve, finding the right role and the right person. He reminds us that we better be willing to do things ourselves, and as well as the value of sticking to your guns and having that unwavering conviction to your values and principles. Plus, I'm going to let you in a little sneak peek on next week's interview guest, who's a best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, Iraqi war veteran, as well as being a dark horse entrepreneur. As per usual, the dark horse corrals are chock full of personal, business, and marketing GOLD spilling from every corner of the dark horse entrepreneur HQ. Well, my eye teeth got tripped over my tongue and I couldn't see what I was saying. So let's get to the starting gates and go. All right, my dark horse friends and family. Today's guest is none other than Timothy Ramthun. Tim is a former business executive and management consultant. He served in the vice president and directorship roles for multiple Fortune 100 and 500 companies that all specialized in manufacturing, technology, finance, education, supply chain service, and delivery, as well as call center operations. Currently, Timothy Ramthun is an American consultant and politician serving the Wisconsin State Assembly, representing Hartford, Kewaskum, and neighboring towns of Calumet. I want to make sure I say that right. Sheboygan, Fond du Lac, and Washington counties. All right, Mr. Ramthun, thank you so much for coming on, and welcome to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, my friend.
I'm so glad to be here, Tracy. Thanks for having me, and it was a pleasure meeting you a couple of weeks back up in Green Bay. So thanks for following through on what you suggested at that time.
Oh, absolutely. I was actually moved by your story as I was listening to you tell your story, which I'm going to ask you to retell here. I was like, okay, I have to share this message with my listeners, and then maybe we can allude to that phone call that you got, unless you're trying to keep that on the down low, right? So
no, it's part of the process, I guess, when you get phone calls from people in special places that want to help you make a difference. But to your initial inquiry, Tracy, I don't really know where to begin, if it's before my public service or since I've been in this role. But let me tell you this to start. I have a very strong sense of passion to serve, to do for and represent the people that make up our great country, our great republic. And in my family, my maternal grandfather was a doctor. I've got a couple of medical professionals in my family as well. So the service element, I think, is in my DNA. Literally, it's in my DNA. So having said that, I've always had an interest in governance. I think back when I was in the first grade, that's when JFK was assassinated. So if you do the math, I'm in my 60s. But anyway,
I'm with you.
Yeah. I remember wondering about that type of work. I wondered about what it did, and time went on, and I studied on it, and I learned it, and I wanted to do it. Well, then, I got older, and I got into high school and college, and then I met the love of my life, and we got married and had kids and the mortgage payment, and things kind of landed more in the private sector of my life. And in those roles, I was a servant as well, where I wanted to be where operational service delivery met the paying customer. So I was always about efficiency, quality, cost effectiveness, return on investment, value, that kind of stuff. So I did that for 4.5 decades. And I got to a point in my life where I felt I missed my calling and missed my turn. And a school board position opened up for my local school district. And I threw my head in the ring. I thought, this could work better and this could be more efficient if we had somebody in there who really cared about making it more efficient.
Right.
And that drove me to want to get into politics, because everywhere you go, whether it's local school board or village or town or county or state level or federal government, people have a lot of criticism about governance, and they rate it pretty low, like in the 20s or the teens as far as people who support it. And that's a problem for me, because it's a necessity. You got to have governance, or you'll have civil disobedience, you'll have lawlessness, you'll have crisis, right? So we need governance. So then it comes down to right person, right role, right time. And if you get the people who really understand what the representation word is, doesn't matter if it's senator, president, or representative, you're a representative. You represent people who elect you to represent them in the seat, okay? So you got to find right person, right role, who never forgets that. First of all, the definition of representation. And secondly, to maintain their focus on serving of, by, and for the people. That's what this is all about. It's not about lining your pockets, not about favor. It's not about money and position and power. It's about making a difference and achieving the necessities required to accomplish what we need in our societies at all levels. Okay,
right.
Getting a little in the weeds here, but so the school board thing happened, and this is back in 2011, 2010, 2011. I first ran for the state position I'm currently in now in 2014. I started 10 weeks after the fact. The seat had opened up. The previous guy was in it for 12 years. He was stepping out. It was an open seat. I thought, well, I'm going to give that a shot. And I started 10 weeks after everybody else. And in politics, sometimes it's not good because people can get their message out. And okay, I'm done. I know who I'm going to vote for, and it's not you because I already heard this guy and kind of thing. So right. I didn't make it. I went from 5th place to 2nd place.
Okay.
The last guy to throw in, and I just about got to the point. If I had another couple of weeks, maybe I could have pulled it off, because I worked hard to earn that, and it didn't happen. And I thought, okay, that was my shot. I won't be doing it anymore. Well, then the seat opened up again in 2018, and I wasn't going to run, but I'll throw a little of my spiritual values and my beliefs in here. The Lord had spoken to me in 14. I thought I was going to win then because he was asking me to run. Well, I didn't. So then when he came back in 2018 to run again, I thought, well, we've had this conversation before. It didn't work. I'm not doing that. Well, he ended up talking me into doing it again. Okay, I'll do it up by and for the people, and I'll do it for you and your glory, and that's it. And I ran, and I just did doors. All I did was 6,900 and change, 6,942 doors I did by myself, because I'm the candidate. I didn't farm it out to anybody, staff or other people to come. I campaigned every door myself. I hit every place I could within my district, which is very long and narrow in Wisconsin. And I think I spent about $475 to do that. Vista prints out these really nice cards. They're about the size of a credit card. I put my face on the front with a little slogan on the back. I said, here's what you get if you vote for Ramthun. And I went out and I did 6,942 doors. I was a cheap date. All I had to do was put gas in my car, and $100 for print cards. But anyway,
nice.
I got into the role because the Lord wanted me to be here for such a time as this. I've had trial and tribulation as a school board member because I'm very conservative and I'm very focused on fiscal responsibility and execution and structure, and I want rules followed, and if anybody violates rules or regulation, there's got to be something that you do about it, up to and including accountability on the person, all of that stuff, right? So I went through some learning curves with the people. Actually went through the learning curve. I wasn't going to change. I never do. You can hold a gun to my head and it won't change my vote. I mean, I have conviction, I have principle, and I'm very structured and strong that way. anyway, that materialized into this opportunity, and I'm kind of doing the same thing here. I know that governance can be better,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it should be better, and I know it needs to be better, and I'm going to try to be part of that. So that's why I decided to run. So that takes me to, I'm in the role now. I'm in my second term, the first year of my second term. Fairly new, but frankly, I'm not new at all, because this stuff here is a lot of the cultural challenges I faced for 4.5 decades in the private sector. Different companies, different industries, different cultures. You gotta be able to deal with ambiguity. You got to be able to deal with the hidden acts and surprises and the agendas that people have in business. And it's even worse here in the public sector. And I don't know why, because if everybody maintained their focus on representation of the people, it should be for them.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's not, that's when you get into the nefarious areas of concern that people have
Right.
about government. So, but I don't accept money for my donation. I don't take donations for my campaign. I gave some money back last year due to COVID. I had received some initially, like $700-800 or something, far short of what I needed to even report. And I ended up giving it back to the people because of COVID. I wasn't going to spend it. And if I have to spend money to be in this job, then I don't know if I want the job, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want any influence factor to cloud my vision on why I'm here. So I don't
Sure.
want to be inner circle favoritism guy involved with people who have titles like speaker or majority. I don't care about getting close to that, because that's where problems start. I don't get involved in the fear factors. And, well, if I don't do this, I won't get something. This will be bad for me. I don't care. I don't want anything in this job other than to serve. I don't need a chair. I don't need to be favored, and I don't get close to money. So that's how I feel about my job here today. And I've been very active to maintain that.
Nice.
So, you have another question?
Yeah, actually, a question just popped up as you were saying that last bit there, and I appreciate you having those firm convictions and principles. It's almost hard to find nowadays, it seems.
Unwavering.
Unwavering, right? Because I know there's plenty of folks who have those, but it seems like many of them become easier swayed than maybe 2-3 decades ago. I don't know. Maybe it's just my viewpoint, but have you considered the flip side of the same thing you were saying? Hey, you don't need a chair, you don't need to be speaker, because you're just here to serve the people. Have you ever thought about if you, with that unwavering conviction and principle, had one of those chairs or had that speaker role, you could actually impact? Maybe I don't want to say more, because I know you're having impact, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe you can almost set the example. Here, this is how it can be done.
Well, interesting question, and a great lead into a further comment about my conviction. I agree with you. I am, humbly speaking, talking about myself is not easy for me. I
understand.
I can talk about you till I'm blue in the face, but don't ask me to speak about myself, right? I would tell you that in my private sector history, I was revered for what I could do in a short period of time I was given. I could work with any situation, understanding what I had to deal with and where I needed to go. I could always make it better. And I was sought out by other companies after my reputation of, they used to call me Dr. Ramthun, and I don't have a master's, or PhD rather. I could go into any industry, any culture, any company, and I could address through tools, organization, process, people, human resources, and finance, and audit. I could raise the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So could I do that here in the public sector? Absolutely. If I were speaker and or governor, for example,
Mm-hmm.
things would be transpiring quite differently around here, because I'm laser focused on results. I have a high sense of urgency on time, not just for me personally, but for our society, for the people. There's need 24/7, 365. There's dated issues that shouldn't be dated. People come into this environment and they take the summer off.
Mm-hmm.
After the budget's passed, the first year of the session in June, They take off until September, October. I was here 3+ days every week since June up until this moment as I speak to you, because it's the job to be here, to be close to the constituents, to work with my staff, to work on bills, to work on initiatives. You can't take vacation because the issues don't take vacation. So,
Right.
So I'm working on election integrity right now, which I think was part of your second inquiry. You were wondering what I was doing now. And to kind of answer your first point, I'm setting the example, I believe, of leadership, what leadership should look like when you're in a crisis situation. It's funny how leaders aren't born, essentially, or maybe they are born, I don't know, but a situation will determine who's got it and who doesn't, who can step up and deal with anything when the time comes and when the call is heard. That's me, so I'm told. And I have a passion to do more with this, but I'm handcuffed, so to speak, because I'm not the chair of a committee for campaign and elections specifically. I'm not the speaker. I'm not the governor. But if I were any one of those, a lot more would be getting done. And if I were speaker, minimally, we would have already reclaimed our electoral college ballots, because we have shown fraud in this state and we have a reason to ask the question. And I would not obstruct due process for the people. So that's another thing I would do. There's certain things that you don't want to consider in politics, but when it comes to the will of the people, you can't be conditional. And that's what goes on around here. And a lot of it's for optics, a lot of it's for political reasons, it's a lot of it for personal reasons. And I would also add to your listeners and anyone else watching that, if you weren't involved in something nefarious and or illegal, you wouldn't be so reluctant to answer the questions and remove the conjecture and remove the conspiracy elements. You'd want to resolve it so you can move on. So to me, it begs the question. If I've got people in this building, leadership and otherwise, that don't want to talk about election integrity, why? Because if we have evidence that fraud occurred and illegalities took place, up to and including violation of state law 12.13 subsection 2 sub 7 sub Baker, we have people admitting they broke the law. What are we supposed to do? Ignore that?
Right.
And what's ironic too, Tracy, is you turn around and people say, let's say to me and my colleagues, we're lawmakers. There's 132 legislative members down here, 132, 33 in the Senate, 99 in the Assembly. We're lawmakers. So we create laws through legislation, and the governor signs them, and they have to be followed, right? Why is there exception to certain laws not being followed and being okay? To me, every law should be followed. It has a purpose, and there should be punitive elements involved. And that doesn't seem to happen with elections. Everybody's like, well, there's nothing to see here. When, quite frankly, there's everything to see here. They just don't want to talk about it, and I'm not exactly sure why. I hope it's not about. My focus is process. I want the execution of our elections routine, from ballots to chain of custody to machines, everything. The voter lists, everything from. I'm thinking nationally now. I shouldn't probably do that. I should just think locally to Wisconsin. But the WISVOTE database is antiquated and corrupted with irrelevant data, the data that could be used and hacked essentially and legitimize a fraudulent or ghost ballot, and then right after the election turn that record back to inactive. I mean, I don't know how you trace that, but access to the WISVOTE database is huge. 3,138 people had that, and during the election for 2020, 3,138 people had access to that. And anybody from any county, from let's say Racine, could log into Eau Claire County and look at their data, and they could change it. Now, minimally, if you have access as a clerk, whether you're a county clerk or your municipal clerk or some other clerk aides, that's where the 3,138 come from the whole state. Minimally, they shouldn't be able to get outside their county.
Right.
Their restriction should be at the county level. It's not. The data is all in one file. The inactive people are mixed in with the active people. That's crazy stuff. And they're all on the same server. So for protection reasons and security reasons, having them all in the same silo is really bad too. So there's three key things we need to do with that element. But I got a little into the weeds on that, Tracy, but my focus is to try to resolve issues that cause problems, and the election integrity issue is a big problem. It's the number one concern in the state. It's not going to go away. The people who are concerned about it are not fringe people. They're not crazy or off the rails. And as a servant of, by, and for the people, the only thing I want is closure on the concerns, so the trust can be returned, so that people can go to the polls, whether it be in April of 2022 for the spring elections, or next November for the midterms and the gubernatorial race, or in 2024.
Right.
When we have another presidential race. You think it's going to be quiet? You think people aren't going to wonder about how things are going to go in 2024 if we don't fix 2020?
Yeah.
They're not going to.
Yeah.
It's not gonna go
There's
away.
going to be so many people that, if this doesn't get resolved, that aren't even going to go to the polls. They're going to be all like, why even bother at this point?
And I hear that statement everywhere. And Tracy, I would tell you, my party would say, well, that's the worst thing you can do. Then you're going to give the victory to the Democrats. Well, then solve the problem.
Right.
You're now listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Take action on the issues that they have with concern and resolve that, so you don't have to wonder if they're going to go and vote. But to sit back and think it's going to go away if you don't talk about it, that's ludicrous, and that's not leadership. And that's why I've been poking this thing, and I don't care what title I have down here other than rep. I'm still going to poke this thing because it needs to be addressed. It needs closure, and so help me God. I'm going to make sure I do everything I can to help that happen. So,
amen. Now, you're working on a bill, or you have a bill that's already in process. I remember during your talk up there in Green Bay, you were talking through that piece of it.
Well, I think the reference that you're making to a bill is a resolution.
Resolution, thank you.
The resolution is to basically call for the reclaiming of the 10 electoral ballots that were certified improperly.
Right.
In 2020. Now, that after the election on November 3rd of 2020, then there's the whole, I forget the term, like the canvassing thing happens, and the verification of the numbers. And then somewhere between November 3rd and December 14th, the state, through the Wisconsin Elections Commissions and the governor, sign off on the state election was certified. Well, they shouldn't have signed off before December 14th, but they did. And I'm basically contesting that because there was fraud, and we've proven the fraud, and it did modify and change the outcome of the election. We should have never certified. So let's pull our 10 electoral college ballots back. Now that went out to the entire body on the 17th of November. And I'm still looking for a senator to sign on to that.
Okay.
And the reason, there's a technical reason I do and a technical reason I don't. The reason I need a senator is to help compound the support in the other house, so that I can have a better chance to have it heard in either house. The resolution is an assembly resolution. It can be heard in the Senate if it's supported by a senator, and then I could just have it concurred in the assembly and it could pass. I haven't gotten an official senator yet to sign on to it. It's been about 2 weeks now today, I think 2 weeks today. I do know, however, that there are more than one interested, and I have at this point in time reached out to constitutional attorneys within the nation. I saw a comment from the Legislative Council group here for the state of Wisconsin, which is 24 attorneys that work on behalf of the legislature. It's called Leg Council. They put out a memo basically refuting my ask, as well as supportive documentation from an attorney in Michigan by the name of Matt DePerno, and basically saying what Ramthun's asking for isn't valid, and there is no mechanism to make this happen. So now what happened then was everybody here, for the most part, all of my colleagues are saying, well, Ledge Council is saying it can't happen and there's no mechanism, so that's what we're going to say. Well, there's no mechanism because this is unprecedented, historic, and the founding fathers did not build in the specific tool you would need to make a reclaiming of the ballots, but they did qualify it in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the Constitution states the plenary authority of the legislature to do this does exist in the Constitution. It doesn't give the specific mechanism, but then it says if you take an action with whatever mechanism you come up with, which would be like the resolution, you then, if enough states were to say we're going to do the same thing that Wisconsin did, well, then you have a president who is in the seat that doesn't have 270 electoral votes. And then once it's 269 or less, well, then that decision would move to Congress, specifically to the House of Representatives. And all the House of Representatives are 435 people, right? They represent all 50 states. Well, then every state would get one vote. And that's what would determine the residual effect of reclaiming your ballots if multiple states did it. I'm not there. I'm back to Wisconsin saying we had an election. It was fraudulent. It's been proven. Fraud vitiates everything. Vitiates the contract between legislature and the Wisconsin Election Commission to run it, which they didn't do right. They fraudulently did it. They broke the law willingly, knowingly they broke the law. So we're going to take that authority back. We're going to reclaim our ballots because they never should have been certified, and then we're done. Then we're done. What happens after that depends on other states. If nothing happens with other states, then nothing happens. But if something happens with other states, then something happens. I'm okay with either way. I do know that I need to end this here. And then, by the way, an audit would be nice so that we would continue to investigate and peel back the details of where the specific areas of fraud took place, and then make sure we address those in future elections, whether it's legislatively, oversight, yeah, something like that. So this is a moving thing. It's evolving as every day goes by, but I'm tell you what, I'm sick and tired. I am sick and tired of the obstruction and the reluctance to do the right thing for the people. This is not the way governance should work. And you know, to have members of my own party, you know, say things disparaging to me or about me is crap too, because I'm not doing anything to hurt people. Their inaction is what's causing their pain, because their constituents are upset with them for not doing something, trying to work with Tim. Work with the Ramthun initiative. You know, no, it's not valid, and Ledge Council said there's no mechanism, so we're just going to ignore it. But that's the wrong attitude to have, because if you're not can-do in this unprecedented historic moment in time, you can't ever get to a place of closure. So I'm all for whatever it takes. I'm all for throwing stuff up against the wall and see what sticks. To not try is the far greater injustice here.
I'm with you there. To sit idly by is not a way to go. Do you think that there are other states sitting there waiting to see what Wisconsin does?
Well, I think yes. I do know Arizona. Of course, they did a physical audit first with Cyber Ninjas, and then they presented their damages, if you would, their allegations and their fraud proof to the Attorney General, which is a Republican as well. So they have a better chance of that being heard. Now, that's been 65, almost 70 days ago, and I don't know what's taken so long. So Arizona's doing something. I know Michigan is really turning up the heat right now, and they've got some very strong initiatives going on. It's going to push for an audit there as well, and ultimately perhaps doing the same thing that I proposed. My resolution memo went everywhere. I mean, I think all 50 states took a look at it, to be honest with you. I know President Trump got a hold of it, and he did comment in a press release, which I appreciate greatly. And also, he called my office and left a message here, which I saved. I thought that was a pretty special thing. But I'll tell you on an honest note, and if he was listening right now, I tell him to his face, thank you very much for taking the time to call me, and I appreciate your press release, but I've got unfinished business here. I've got to get this thing done. So my focus is not about how it looks to me. This is not about, it's not about anything like that. It's about addressing the illegalities of an election process. To me, Tracy, this is an affront on our Constitution. It's a national security issue that we can't ignore. And that's why my sense of urgency and my focus is so strong, because this is like Pearl Harbor on steroids to me.
Yeah.
This is a big deal.
Yeah, this is I think this is one of the things that's diffused that can light something good, or it could light something bad to blow up in our faces, right?
I'm not sure I follow you on the bad part. What did you mean by that?
Well, and if we sit there and do nothing, you're still lighting the fuse. You're just lighting a different fuse of a bomb that could blow up in your face in April in 2024. Where the corruption can continue. If you believe there's corruption involved, which we've seen, there is some in all the results we've seen that have come forth so far.
Well, more than some.
Well, right.
You don't need all of the fraud. You just need some fraud. So
right.
We're taking pieces of it. The Racine County Sheriff's investigation was incredibly revealing. And by the way, to make that clarity point, so in Racine County alone, one county out of 72 in the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Wisconsin Election Commission gave directive to the county clerk and to the municipal clerks on how to break the law.
Mm.
They did it in all 72 counties. So you compound that to be comprehensive for the whole state. And the only seat that was on the ballot for every county in the state of Wisconsin was the presidential election seat. So this is presidential election specific in all 72 counties of our entire state. And it was because Wisconsin Election Commission gave illegal directives on how to fraudulently allow for ballots to be cast. That is the fraud that encompassed our state. That one thing alone vitiates everything. And it's reason for me to ask the question. We want our electoral ballots back. So my colleagues don't see it that way because I think they're told not to, because alleged council memo should not be the one all be all end all. I've got legal opinions coming from national levels of constitutional attorneys that know the Constitution. And when I get that in my hand, I'm going to make that public as well. And I'm going to revisit the push for reclaiming the ballots. Right now, it's a little quietness here because I did put it out. There was some, comments made in a press release by the majority leader, who's not going to listen to her. He's not going to bring up the resolution. But when I get some more supporting evidence that this is the right thing to do for the people, I think it's going to be an interesting time. I'm looking forward to what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that too. So the last part I want to make sure I ask you, and I know you probably get asked this a lot. Well, you actually do, because you told me you did. How can the average Joe, Schmo, Jane Doe help? Right? We're just sitting here in our homes going, oh my God, he's right. I totally believe you. How can we chip in? What steps can we take to offer you any assistance whatsoever?
Well, first of all, I want to say something about communications. The awareness element, I try to get ahead on here. In my office every week, I do a video called the Ramthun Report. It's on YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram. And I also do an e-update, which is an email text that has links to Ramthun Report the previous week, as well as other things going on. I try to do two communications, and they're not the same topics. So people are getting 2, 3, 4, 6 things per week, a couple 3 from the video, a couple 3 from the e-update. They're getting a lot of like, oh, here's what it's like to be Representative Ramthun right now.
Right.
So that one thing they can do is stay tuned with the Ramthun Report on one of those 3 channels. I prefer Rumble and Telegram because they don't censor. The other thing I would do to answer your question is we've got a process where people are sending emails in to the state representatives and state senators here, asking them to see the light on the necessity for this election issue and to help support the question of reclaiming the ballots. Now, auto returns or auto replies rather on email, it doesn't seem to be very helpful because it's a dismissive response that says it's not valid and there's no mechanism, and who knows, maybe Ramthun's just doing it for publicity, which is
right.
crap. Which is crap. Okay, I don't know if this crap's okay to say on your show, but it's
absolutely
one of my favorite words when I have to talk about crap. But anyway, so my suggestion would be to contact the respective representatives and or senators and ask for 5 minutes on their calendar. And when you ask for time on their calendar, you either do it on the phone or in person, but you're talking to the to the legislator.
Mm-hmm.
You're not talking to staff. If you send an email, it could go into a box and they could do an auto reply. No one ever sees. You never really get closure on your inquiry or statement. So be a little bit more thorough and make the call and ask for time on the calendar. The last thing too, I heard, I just got this today. I didn't know that, but there was a telethon thing this weekend that Mike Lindell had put on. I don't remember where he hosted it from, but there's a website out there. Are you there yet?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, I saw you looking down.
I'm typing a note here about the Mike Lindell thing so I can look it up.
There's a Frank Speech website apparently where you can go. Is it www.frankspeech? Okay, so it's www.frankspeech.com, and there's a Wisconsin link on there, a Wisconsin call to action element, and you can click on there too, and it gives a little bit of information on who you can call. It's got all the names of the senators, Democrats as well as Republicans. The push is more for the Senate side, so we can get the other house. Apparently, I didn't know this was happening, by the way, till this morning. It was brought to my attention from my staff. But I didn't ask for this. I wasn't any part of that. It happened on their own accord because of the action I took with asking the question that made the press that the president responded to. So apparently those individuals involved in that event last weekend did that on their website. I was asked to do an interview, and I was on at 5:30 on Saturday night, and I was with Neil, I forget his last name, but he's fronted that Lumberjack podcast, and there's also Marcus D. He was part of the interview, and there was a third individual by the name of Brian, but I've never met Brian before, but he was on the call as well. And we did 30 minutes on Saturday night and talked a little bit about election integrity as well. So
nice.
Apparently I'm the only one that's pushing forward in the country right now as far as reclaiming ballots, but I hope I don't end up being the only one. I hope there's more.
I know there's lots of people out there at varying levels screaming the same thing that you're discussing. So I'm with you. I hope you're not the only one. I think behind the scenes you're probably not, but we have to get them out from behind the scenes and up into the forefront. So much like you're doing, so we can get some actions out there. Timothy, I really appreciate you coming on and hanging out and sharing your wisdom here. If folks want to learn more about about the Ramthun report, about what you're doing here in Wisconsin, or anything else about you, where should I send them to?
My office.
Okay.
This is an office that serves the people of Wisconsin. I am the 59th rep, and that's my priority, my focus. However, if they're a resident of the state, I'd be honored to help them with any Wisconsin-based questions. My Ramthun reports are national and international. And I say that because I don't care where you live. Essentially, if you want to be on my e-update, give my office a call. If you want to see my Ramthun reports, subscribe to one of the 3 channels. My office phone number is area code 608-266-9175. And you can call that 24/7, 365, leave a message if no one answers, and usually in the evening and on weekends, nobody will answer. Otherwise, somebody will answer, and we try to get back to everybody with an update that we received your message and thank you for calling kind of thing. And I try to do that personally. And I make a few calls once in a while myself where I'll reach out to constituents who called into my office, thank them for their time and their expression, and even the constructive ones. And I get a few of those, not many. Maybe 1 or 2% out of 100% across the nation, which is tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So a lot of interest in this topic nationally and internationally as well, to be honest with you. They're watching.
A lot of folks watching.
They're watching the United States, and they're watching the state of Wisconsin very closely right now. And I'll tell you, Tracy, if I was in this for anything like optics or look at me stuff,
right?
Crap. The people, my colleagues should see the opportunity to soar like an eagle and become part of history. If they really wanted to look good to the people, they would get on this resolution and say, let's go. I just say that because I'm not in this for anything other than to get it done. So
right.
Whatever happens, let his will be done.
I hear you, man. Yeah, and let's hope it does get done. You can expect me to be reaching out to some of the folks that represent me and in my area for making those calls, and I'm going to get a couple of minutes on their calendar as well to jump on that. So thank you for that idea, Timothy. Thank you again for taking the time out of your what I know has to be a busy day to hang out with us. I definitely appreciate you.
I would honestly tell you, Tracy, that today you were the highlight of my day. I want to thank you for your time and for your show, what you do, and don't ever stop, because I'll tell you what, leaving people in the dark and misinforming them on truth and or misleading them from the truth, you won't let that happen, and neither will I. So it takes people like us to make sure that the right and good things happen. So thank you for what you do. It's an honor to be on the same team with you, and I look forward to seeing you again and talking with you in the future.
All right, and you definitely will. Thank you, sir.
Have a good one. Bye now.
All right, bye-bye. All right, my Dark Horse friends and family, there you have it. Mr. Timothy Ramthun dropping passion-filled bombs on us today. What resonated with you? What ideas did you come away with? Let me share a few thoughts that's kind of resonated with me. Thought number one, have a passion to serve. Right out of the gate, Timothy reminded us that he has, and we need to have, a passion to serve. He walked us through his story, all outlining his passion to serve from and through the first 4.5 decades in the private sector, always wanting to be on the business side, facing the customer or consumer so he could best serve them. Finally taking his service further, which led to being elected to the school board, to the point of even being the past president of one of the school boards, and on to his current position in the state assembly. Everyone out there should be using their lives and their companies to serve in the best way they know how, the best way they are capable. Serve your family, serve those in your sphere of influence, then serve to grow and positively impact those outside your sphere of influence. I want to go a little deeper on this on episode 285, Reasons Why Entrepreneurs Should Use Their Companies to Serve Others. Thought number two, right person, right role. Yeah, whether it's your business, your relationships, or whom you elect into a position of governorship in your city, your county, your state, or your nation, you need to be sure to be putting in place the right person for the right role. Now, I've seen people during my time in corporate America that were doing super good, super well in their current position, and they would get promoted, and they would do good again, and they'd get promoted again. And then this would continue until they faltered. The sad thing is they would end up being in a position that they were no longer good at, right? And what happens is the team suffers. The company potentially suffers. It's almost like they ended up matriculating to the point of incompetency, right? And here's the really sad part. Most will not go back to the previous role or to the right role where they were the right person for that role. They will stay in that position of incompetency and make everyone around them work harder. How many times have you seen this happen in business, maybe even in relationships, right? Or well, worse yet, in politics. I'm going to chat a bit more about this one in episode 286. Put the right people in the right roles. Thought number 3, be willing to do it your damn self. During his campaign, Tim went out there and knocked on 6,200 plus stores? It may have been more than that. Don't quote me, all right? And he did those all himself. Now, most folks, they hire a team to get out there and do door knocking for them. Tim got out there and did it himself. How many of you are willing to get off your duff, off your asses, and do that kind of work in order to reach your goal? Even at the possibility of not reaching it. Now, if you're still listening, and you are right now, yeah, that's right, okay, I'm guessing you are one of those motivated people that raised their hand and said, well, I am, of course, and man, God love you. But if you're not willing to get up off your ass and beat the streets to attain your goal and the goals of those that you serve, Perhaps you're not the right person for the right role, like we just talked about. That's a question that you're going to have to ask and answer honestly to yourself. You have to be willing to do the work yourself first. Then later, you earn the privilege of hiring someone to do it for you. And thought number 4, stick to your guns. Tim referred to this as unwavering. I say stick to your guns. Stick to your convictions and principles. Have that unwavering conviction that Tim mentioned. But in order to do this, you're going to have to take the time to know what they are, right? Duh, right? You're going to have to know who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and really what you will do for what you stand for and what you do not believe in. And I think that's a piece that a lot of folks miss. They know what they do believe in, but they don't always take the time to know what they don't believe in. Like, I don't believe in that topic right there. They don't even address that. And I think that's a big missing piece. And I'm not talking about going out there and tearing up the streets because you're upset about this issue or that issue or that whatever's happening in your life. I'm talking about you staying loyal to who you are, staying strong in your convictions and beliefs, and doing everything right within your power to ensure those convictions and beliefs are represented in everything you do, everything you say, and everyone you choose to be allowed within your sphere of influence. And trust me when I say, when you hire someone to represent you or your company or whom you elect to represent you at any level of governmentship, right? They should hold those same values true, or you're handing over your company, your city, your county, your state, or your country to those that do not believe the same way you do. All right. What inspiring tips, thoughts, or ideas resonated with you today? Whatever they were, take some time as soon as you can. Right now would be a really good time, but if you're driving, I get it. All right. Maybe you're running down the road, jogging. If you can't do it right now, I understand, but take some time to write them down. Whatever they were, take the time today after you write them down and then get out there and put them into action. Go out there, run your race, get your results, and then let me hear about them. That's right. You heard me. I want to hear about them. Send me an email, tracy@darkhorseschooling.com. Share the tips or ideas that you came away with, how you put them into action, and what results that you gained from them. Heck, probably even get you on the show and let you share your story. Now, our next interview guest is going to be Stacy Rasky. Now, Stacy is she's a best-selling author. She's a speaker. She's a podcast host. She's an Iraqi war veteran. She's a badass biker chick, a boundaries expert, a leadership mentor, an authenticity alchemist, a success consultant, an influence activator, and a legacy builder. You are going to want to hear not only her story, but her sage advice. Now, I know you want to keep getting all these valuable tips and inspirational stories from the folks I'm lucky enough to bring on this show. So please go on down there, hit that subscribe button, and while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating. Yeah, why not, right? And write us a quick review. Of course, do not keep all this entrepreneurial GOLD all to yourself. Share this podcast with other entrepreneurs and business owners you know will get value from it. And with that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Did you know this?
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.